the past 10 years of my life. Like, it's always, and I, definitely had some stuff. And so I get, like, quite, codependent in relationships, and I, really lose myself in them. And one of the things that I really noticed about myself just being single over the past 4 months is I do know who I am to some degree, but I really lose it when I've been in relationships because I'm constantly hopping from one to the next. And so this has been really good because my last ex, left and was like, I'm out. And I was like, okay, cool. Like, we had a decent run. And so I've just decided to like actually dedicate this time to figuring out who that person is and seeing what I actually want out of life. Because I was, I felt the whole spectrum of feelings after this breakup. But I was really sad, because you always are with a loss, right? Yeah. But when I started thinking about it later, I was like, man, we are so different. We were completely different people, headed completely different places in life, with completely different interests. And now looking back on it, I'm like, how did we make it that long? I changed myself a lot to try to fit into the whole of the person that I thought he might enjoy. And all I did was self-sabotage for the longest time in there. So the past 4 months I've just been chilling, just doing my thing, and it's been pretty good.
Yeah, I can relate to that. That's definitely how I have always been in relationships as well. Is just which goes way back to all sorts of I need to earn someone's love and abandonment issues and all of that. That I never took the time to heal because it was always just jump to the next significant other. And I think I had the same kind of crisis of identity when I first got separated from my husband. I was just like, who am I without him? And what do I want without his vision? And which is always kind of weird because I think a lot of people still saw me as this strong, independent woman, my friends and that, but didn't, or they weren't voicing it. That what are you doing, right? Because I think I was just so good at being no, this is totally what I want. It's I definitely want the white picket fence house and the 2.5 children and stable careers, which is not me at all, right? But and interestingly, my husband wanted to get back together after a little while. He kind of had that same thing of I've made a giant mistake. Let's try to work this out. And I thought about it for quite some time, and because I still have a lot of love for him. He's a wonderful person. But I'm I don't think we have the same values. I don't think we want the same things. You want that 9-to-5 job and the stability, and you want to put roots down somewhere, and I'm a gypsy soul, and I'm never gonna want a 9-to-5 career. I will always value my time and my fulfillment, my joy over a paycheck. Just so many fundamental differences that at one point it was frustrating for me too, though, to be how did I do this again, right? So I think even with dating, are you dating now at all, or are you intentionally very single?
I'm definitely open to the idea. One of my friends who helped comfort me through the breakup ended up telling me and she's been single forever, and she was my dad told me, and she's quite religious, and she was my dad told me that God didn't make you everything that you are so that you could dilute that down for some man. And I was that is really, really interesting and just a good way to put it. And I was man, so I guess I need to definitely take some time to figure out who I am before I'm gonna jump into anything. But then once I figure out what I want, I need to just be open to that person revealing themselves to me on the path. And so that's my plan. No set timeline. No idea what I'm doing. Plus, it's difficult dating when you have a child regardless. And that whole relationship was very messy for her as well, especially the breakup. And so, as a mom, you always have to be thinking about someone else as well. And I'm just kind of also closed off just for that reason. Because I don't need to put somebody who's young and doesn't quite fully understand it through that again.
Oh, of course. Yeah, it's a little bit harder for moms. I know, my mom struggled for years. She stopped dating when I was 8 years old. I think initially intentionally, and then I don't know
So
why
it
after that, right? Like it just maybe continued, and at one point maybe it got scary, like, or she was just so involved with being a mom, like in a single mom, and dealing with all of that. So, but yeah, she stopped for a while, I think, for similar reasons of like, who am I, what do I want, and protecting her kids. So
well,
yeah.
I mean, that's really nice. Like
Yeah.
my mom and my dad had a really messy divorce when I was probably about 7 or 8 as well.
Okay.
But my mom had a new boyfriend like
Yeah.
within the calendar year, right?
Okay.
And they were also like so incredibly wrong for each other, and they just put up with each other.
Yeah.
And like I had my daughter very young at 15, and I dated a bit and had a few boyfriends here and there, and my mom was always on my case about like, you need to just settle down with one guy, like you can't have all these guys like moving in and out of your life. And I was like, absolutely, like I don't. But like I'd also rather show her how to behave with grace through a breakup, and how to leave something that you're not happy with, rather than to like stick it out for the kids, because I think that is absolutely one of the most toxic mindsets.
It is.
Oh, 100%.
Because all you're showing them is like, this is how to have a lack of boundaries, and this is how to like really disrespect yourself, and like that's not lessons kids need either.
No, kids learn a lot from like modeled behavior, right? And so if you're raised within a toxic relationship, that's what you're likely going to have in the future, unless you can go back and are self-aware enough that you work through those issues and that modeling and that conditioned behavior. Like that's likely what you're going to go into, right? So,
oh, absolutely. And I mean, that's exactly what I did. Right now, I'm starting to gain that self-awareness. Like, finally, 25, like, better late than never.
Yeah.
We're
32!
But I mean, for a long time, I was like, oh, you're interested in me? That's the only prerequisite to getting with me. So that's chill.
Yeah. Fair enough.
So I'm glad that I've like, semi-evolved past that. I have a few more boxes to check.
Good. Yeah, I have a lot of boxes to check, so that's why I'm like.
That's what I'm inspired by. I'm like, you know what? I need to not settle.
Yeah,
and that's
exactly.
a lot about what my last relationship taught me as well, right? Like it's about not settling and not being scared to be alone.
Exactly.
Yeah. I think there's definitely all of that, but on the flip side, there's like also understanding that nobody's perfect.
Yeah.
And like loving the imperfections in the person that you meet. So like, because I know some women who are just like, this is my checklist, and if you don't meet every single item on this checklist, we're not dating. And then they're complaining because they're single and can't find their Mr. Right. And I'm like, well, because you're not leaving any room for grace or humanness, right? Like, you're not leaving room for the fact that there's imperfections. And let's flip the mirror. Like, what are you offering? And
100%.
like, are you perfect? Right?
Yeah,
like,
no.
you're not.
No.
If you're being honest, you're not.
No.
So why are you expecting that of like another human? So like, it's a little bit about like definitely having like your non-negotiables, like must love dogs.
Must love dogs.
Yeah. So like having your non-negotiables, your would-be nices, and then like kind of going from there, I think. But
Yeah, exactly. No, my list is more like kind of like, okay, don't really drink, like don't get shit-faced all the time. Like I don't drink, so I'm okay to date a guy like who has a few drinks here and there, but no, you're not getting wasted every weekend kind of thing. You're not doing drugs. Like you have to be fit and like healthy and like have the same lifestyle as me, because like come on, if you're a couch potato, like this ain't gonna work.
So,
No, it's having that self-awareness to have like a realistic list, and you're not sitting there like, I need, Channing Tatum with dope sense of humor, and like, will make me dinner every night, so it's definitely like both of those.
needing that balance in between. But I think you kind of nailed it too, saying like you need to be right with yourself, right? And being okay with who you are, and not just okay, but like loving who you are before getting involved with someone else. Just so that you can bring as much as you need or can to the table. And I think if you're doing that, like if you're solid in who you are, I mean, we're always constantly changing and growing, but if you're solid in who you are and you love who you are, you're more likely to enter into a healthier partnership with someone who's more right for you than if you're still shape-shifting and willing to bend, right? Like in those unhealthy ways. Like there's
Yeah.
obviously some level of compromise, but if it's just like, oh, you want a housewife? I'll become a housewife.
Yeah.
Or like, oh, you want someone who loves the outdoors? Like, I love hiking.
Yeah.
Like, you know, meanwhile, you've never hiked a day in your life.
Yeah.
You hate bugs.
No, that's just recipe for resentment at that
Right.
point, right?
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. But I think that's also just people who value being in a relationship more than they value what that relationship
Adds
is.
to their life.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's
Well, that's the
exactly
thing
what
is like we've just been kind of like programmed as we grow up to like, oh, you grow up, you get married, you have kids. Like,
Yeah.
and so we just think like I think a lot of people are in relationships just because they think they should be.
Yeah.
Or like they think, oh yeah, no, I need to have kids. So like getting older, I need to find someone.
Yeah.
And I gotta have kids before I get too old, which luckily like I don't want kids, so my age isn't like interfering
Yeah.
with my dating life
Yeah.
because I know some friends who are in their 30s and they want children and they just keep finding duds that they don't want to have kids with, right?
Yeah.
And they're like, oh, time's
Yeah.
almost up, you know?
Yeah.
So yeah, it's just like it's being okay with yourself and being
Yeah.
like not the norm,
Right.
you know, like.
Yeah. But even
Yeah.
along that, I think, like, I knew a woman who was getting up there in her 30s, which unfortunately we have a bit of a biological and
Yeah.
right? And she wasn't meeting a man that she wanted to be in partnership with, and so she ended up actually just going the route of artificial insemination and intentionally being a single mom, and because she knew that that was something that was a must do in her life, right? And I thought that was just so incredibly powerful, like just this woman choosing her life and not settling for some crappy relationship just so that she could have a baby. I was like just
be tied
bow
to
to
him.
you, right?
Yeah,
be
that's
tied
awesome.
to him
Yeah.
and forced to co-parent with this person that she may or may not want in
Yeah.
her life.
Yeah.
I just thought that was the most incredible
That is
thing,
awesome.
right?
Yeah, and more power to those women who, if
Yeah.
they want children and they're not finding a decent guy to raise children with, then do it on your own if you want that.
Sometimes it's like throw out the script or
Yeah.
modify the script so that it works for
For
your
you.
life, right? Yeah, not being stuck to these
Mhm.
societally dictated norms or standards or whatever, right?
Exactly.
Yeah.
Mhm.
I think that's cool. There's so many options for how you can create the life that you want to be having
Yeah.
with or without a
That's
partner.
Mhm.
Plus, there's no right time
Right.
for anyone, and I think that whole timeline of
Yeah.
you meet,
Yeah.
you get married at like 23, and you start.
Yeah.
That's just so outdated because as we move through society, like you have to more often than not go to school, and that adds on to the timeline, and it's difficult to date, and to some degree you could make the argument that we are more disconnected, and dating can be more difficult, and so that's tacking on
100%.
time, taking time to get established in our careers. Like nothing is normal.
Yeah.
And plus, I had my one and will be my only child at 15 years old. Like by the time I'm 30, she's gonna be a teenager and ready to just explore the world, and I'm gonna be your guys' age, and what do I do now?
Which is kind of amazing too, right?
Which
Like,
is interesting.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I've had friends who had kids really young, and friends who've had kids when they're older, and it's just it's just kind of cool to see them get to navigate different phases of their life, right? Like the kids who had, or friends who had kids really young, might have missed out on some of the things that the rest of us were doing in the university years and partying and whatever. But they're gonna be late 30s, early 40s, having done all the child raising, they've now established themselves and can go off and travel and do all of these fun, crazy things, while the rest of them are knee deep in diapers, right?
Yeah.
So it's kind of and then on the flip side, if you have your kids later, you have all your fun in the early years and then get yourself knee deep in diapers.
I
So
think
it's
it's-
no right or wrong way. Right?
Yeah.
It's also wisdom that you're training for there, right?
Yeah.
I've been a lot of different kinds of parents in the past 8 years. Not all of them wonderful, and I will be the first to say that. But I mean, I was learning from 15 to now. I learned a whole lot, and so what I would say is that I maybe lacked the wisdom of the older parents.
Sure.
But I definitely have more energy, and I think being closer in age makes me understand it a little bit more. Because I'm oh, okay, you're stressed out because your friends are talking